Today we are counting down the top 10 most important and valuable DC comics of the year 1967 as ranked by the high prices in the Overstreet Annual Price Guide. We're going to be looking at rarity and historical importance. Starting with number 10 of the year is Detective Comics 363. This book features the second appearance ever of Batgirl, and Batman and Robin are, of course, featured in this issue, as always. Carmen Infantino cover and art in this issue. This is one of the checkerbox covers that was featured at the top of every DC cover at this time period. Print run estimated at a high 425,000 copies were sold, as this was one of DC's biggest titles at the time, as the Batman TV show was airing. It ranks 10th of the year and 163rd most valuable DC comic of the decade of the 1960s. On the CGC census, there are 216 copies graded in all conditions combined, but only 12 ranking super high with a 9.6 or higher. Heritage Auctions has sold 19 copies since 2000, which is less than one a year. Here we feature our three heroes all on the cover. 12-cent cover price for comics at this time. Using the Overstreet Annual Price Guide, we can see the growth year by year lately for this book in all conditions. It's generally been a slow mover because it's still a very affordable, cheap book in lower grades, but it is slightly moving up a little bit year by year in higher grades. Now to make the top 10 of the year, you have to be worth at least $385 in the guide. On the census, there are three 9.8s and 9.6s at the top of the census. Ranking number 9 of the year, we have Batman appearing again in Batman 197. This issue features the fourth Silver Age appearance of Catwoman, the first appearance of the new Batgirl in this title, her fifth appearance overall. We've got Carmen Infantino cover art and Chick Stone interior art. Number 9 of the year, 162nd of the decade. This book, print run estimated at 805,000 copies because Batman TV show was all the rage at the time. So Batman's self-titled book was massive at this time, DC's biggest seller at this moment. On the census, there are 238 copies graded, only 4 9.6 or higher. And we have 28 copies sold by Heritage, still not a lot. And here we've got a great cover featuring our three main characters. Purple background cover. And using the Overstreet Price Guide, we can see the same steady growth in higher grades, but very slow movement in lower grades. There are no 9.8s in existence of this book. There are 4 9.6s. Number 8, and this is a really unique book on our list, Teen Beat number 1. This is not a superhero, a war, or a Western title. This is a teen music magazine, comic book sized, that DC put out. And Teen Beat was a one-shot issue, and it features the Monkees on the cover and other photos and articles on popular music groups of the time, including the Beatles, Moby Grape, Jefferson Airplane, the Animals, and the Blues Project. The title would be renamed Teen Beam for issue number 2, which was also a one-shot in 1968. There is a Savannah Pedigree copy of number 1 out there. This is extremely scarce in all conditions. It ranks 8 of the year, mostly due to rarity. 152nd of the decade. There are only 8 copies graded ever by CGC, no super high grade copies, and Heritage has only sold 2 copies in the last 22 years. Black background cover makes this one even tougher. Most superhero collectors aren't seeking this one out, but if you like the rarity and the the whole music movement of the late 60s, this is a really cool book to own. In the Overstreet Price Guide, it already has a high price tag, so it has been stalled for a number of years in low grade and just a slight bump up in higher grades. Now $410 on the census. The highest graded copies are 9.0. There are 3 of them. Number 7 of the year, and here's an iconic cover. Flash 175 features the second race of Superman and the Flash battling it out. And the Justice League of America also appear in this issue. And the cover is by Carmen Infantino and Al Plastino. Ross Andrew interior art, ranked 7th of the year, 150th of the decade. Lots of demand for this book. 600 copies graded by CGC, including 16 9.6 or higher. Heritage has sold 78 copies. black background cover. In the Overstreet price guide, considered pricey at this time, so it's been stalled as well for a number of years in lower grades, but quite affordable. High grades, it's sneaking up there now, $425. And on the census overall, we have 6 9.8s and 10 9.6s. Next on our countdown in 6th place is Detective Comics 369. This is the first Batgirl and Robin team up ever, and it's the 3rd appearance of the Silver Age Catwoman and the 4th appearance of the new Batgirl, who debuted this year. Of course, we got Batman in this issue as well. Gil Kane cover art, Neil Adams and Carmen Infantino interior art, and Elongated Man also appears in this issue. Number 6 of the year, 151 of the decade. And we see there are only 105 copies graded by CGC and only 2 really high grade copies. Heritage has sold only 10 of this book. So it's overlooked by a lot of collectors, not considering this a major key, but it really is. And it's sneaking up in price. It's now a 425 book in 9.2 raw grade in the Overstreet price guide. If you want to see what higher graded books are, and at least CGC copies, check out gpanalysis.com. And also go to ebay.com and look up sold ended auctions and see what kind of prices are being set for graded copies, especially super high grade copies. On the census, there are no 9.8 copies existing of this book, and there are only 2 9.6s, making this extremely tough in higher grades for this book. Next on our countdown is number 5. And it's a big year for Batman. We've got Batman 189, the first appearance in the Silver Age of the Scarecrow, one of Batman's most famous villains. And he's featured on the cover with Carmen Infantino art. And we've got also art by Joe Giella and Sheldon Moldoff. Very high print run of this book because, again, it was out when the TV show was at its peak. Print run estimated at 805,000 copies of this book, ranks 5th of the year, 107th of the decade. Lots of demand for this book, 1,248 copies graded, 27 9.6 or higher. Heritage has sold 100. This is one of the famous checker box covers at the top of the cover. That was the theme for DC at this time for a number of months. In the Overstreet annual price guide, you can see demand is truly strong in this book, even in low grades. This book has doubled in the last 7 years alone. And in higher grades, the book has more than doubled, and it's now at $975. On the census, there are 7 9.8s and 20 9.6s. On our countdown, we next feature number 4. It's Superman 199. And Superman was such a big selling title that most Superman comics are the most common comics found in the 1960s, which keeps the prices down. So it's rare to find a Superman title on our countdown year by year. But this one is a major key. It's the first Superman versus the Flash race. And it was very popular because, of course, they kept doing it. We've got Carmen Infantino and Murphy Anderson working on the cover art. Print run estimated at 421,000 copies. It ranks 4th of the year, 90th of the decade. We have 902 copies graded, but only 6 9.6 or higher. Very tough to find with this black background cover. Heritage has sold 74 copies. In the Overstreet price guide, definitely demand for this book. It's sneaking up even in lowest grades. And it's now up to $1,100 for a high-grade copy. There are no 9.8s in existence, but there are 6 9.6s out there. Number 3, finally changing characters. We have Strange Adventures 205, the origin and first appearance of Deadman. And this is a unique title. At that time, definitely feeling the late 60s psychedelic vibe. This book ranks 3rd of the year and 51st of the decade. It's the 5th most valuable DC late 60s first appearance book. Print run estimated at 146,000 copies. Demand definitely growing for this book. CGC census now at 909 copies, but only 2 grading 9.6 or higher. Heritage has sold 94 of this circus cover. In the Overstreet price guide, demand is pretty steady. And in this last 8 years, the book has tripled in lowest grades and is more than tripled in high grades. Now $1,600 book. And there are no 9.8s in existence and only 2 9.6s. Number 2 is a book that's only been hot in the last decade, now considered a major key. It's Aquaman 35, first appearance of the Black Manta. And we also have Ocean Master in this issue, Nick Cardy cover art. When the news came that there was going to be an Aquaman movie being made, all the speculators jumped on all the Aquaman key issues like this one. Prices have been continually rising. Ranks number 2 of the year now, 43rd of the decade. It's the 11th most valuable DC first appearance book of the late 60s. Print run estimated at 234,000 copies. Census has really climbed with 757 copies now graded, but only 4 super high grade books and 63 sold by Heritage Auctions. In the Overstreet price guide, you can see the demand, the crazy jumps this book has had. In the last 7 years alone, the book has gone up 5 times its price in lowest grades. And in high grades, it's almost gone up 6 times its price, leaping up to $1,750 now. On the census, there is only 1 9.8 and 3 9.6s, which brings us to the number 1 comic of the year for DC Comics, and it is Detective Comics 359, the first appearance and origin of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. It's also the first Silver Age Killer Moth appearance. We've got Carmen Infantino and Murphy Anderson cover and interior art. It's the most valuable key issue of Detective Comics of the last 55 years. This is a major book. Everyone wants this in their collection. It's the number 1 book of the year, even ranks 11th of the entire decade. It's the most valuable first appearance DC book of the late 60s. Print run estimated at 425,000 copies. Remember, this was out at the time that the Batman TV series was massive on television. And it also has that checker box cover at the top. And the census has gone crazy for this book. Over 2,400 copies graded, 17 high grade, 149 at Heritage. Great action cover post of our 3 heroes. And the Overstreet price guide shows this tremendous growth of this book. And you can see in the last 10 years alone, the book has gone up about 5 times in lowest grades and more than 5 times in higher grades. It's now a major key $5,000 book. There are only 4 9.8s, 13 9.6s. Now we're going to compare the top 10 books on the CGC census and look how they rank compared to each other, see which books have the most demand and which ones are the rare ones. So by far, Detective Comics 359 is in the lead with 2,400 copies graded. After that, it's Batman 189. Of course, there's more Batman collectors for DC books than any other characters, so those ones are going to rank the highest. On the low end, of course, Teen Beat number 1 has only 8 copies graded. After that, Detective Comics 369, surprisingly, had only 105 copies with the first Batgirl Robin team up. And we've also got really low numbers for Detective Comics 363, the second appearance of Batgirl. Looking at the high grades overall, not every book on our census even has a 9.8. In fact, only 5 of them do. So that's only 50% of our top 10 has a 9.8 in existence. The book that seems to be the most common at super high grade is Batman 189. There's 27 copies graded 9.6 or higher. Of course, Teen Beat 1 is the rarest. There are no copies graded higher than 9.0. Strange Adventures is also quite low with not much at the high end at all. So there you go. Top 10 most valuable and key historically important DC Comics of 1967. This series continues every week, so please subscribe to this channel, and thanks for watching.